You are about to watch a video on the top 5 worst semblances in RWBY. To clarify, this doesn't mean that these characters are bad or that their semblances are even bad, just that they are very niche and other semblances in the show greatly overshadow them. And finally, just remember that this is my opinion. Number 5, Yang Xiaolong. Yang's semblance is powerful and she continues to grow and find ways to control it in a better manner. However, it certainly has a downside. To rely on taking damage in order to activate your semblance, it's not ideal. It's much more efficient to simply beat an opponent while doing your best not to take damage. In the past, Yang relied on her semblance far too much, but at least she is learning not to use it as a crutch since her additional training with Tai in Volume 4. Number 4, Nora. Just like with Yang, I will say that Nora's semblance is strong. It's a powerful semblance. However, it is beyond inconvenient that she has to fight an opponent that ends up using electricity or rely on a teammate like RWBY to hit her with electricity. Perhaps one day, Nora will actually carry her own lightning dust or invent a way to charge her semblance on her own. Until that day though, she finds a spot on my list. Number 3, Sun Wukong. It's probably a bad idea to stand completely still in the fight. This gives your opponent every opportunity to dictate the flow of the progression of movement and immediately puts you on the defensive. Sun's semblance forces him to stand completely still, and the benefit of doing so, his clones aren't even really that great. The other major downside is that his semblance seems to drain an abnormal amount of aura. For example, creating and channeling 4 clones to hold down Ilya drained him of all his aura within about 5 seconds. Now, I did make a theory a while back that Sun's semblance is solar powered, meaning that it's most efficient during the day or in the light. But even if my theory is right, it's a huge downside that he relies on a certain time of the day to perform optimally. Number 2 is Ren. And back to the issue of semblances being very niche. Ren's semblance fits the bill. It's decent against Grim and can counter human opponents who rely on strong emotion to feel their fighting prowess, such as Yang, though Yang does seem to be fixing that issue for herself. The problem with Ren is that even though his semblance is okay when fighting Grim, it's still better to simply have a semblance that helps you beat the Grim, rather than simply making them unable to detect you. Overall, Ren's semblance is rather lackluster, but hey, we do need to give him some credit, as he is probably one of the youngest people in the entire show to unlock his semblance at such a young age, so props for that. And our honorable mention will go to Crow Bronwyn. His semblance is amazing, but it's also terrible in some aspects. I'm sure you can understand why I put Crow as an honorable mention on this list. And the second honorable mention will go to Hazel and his pain nullification semblance. You can arguably just interchange him and Yang on this list, because both semblances rely on taking damage in order for them to be effective. However, Hazel's does have some out of combat effectiveness to it as well that Yang doesn't have. Also, the correlation with potential combos regarding dust, depending on the individual. I'm sure not everybody is as crazy as Hazel and will go that far, but it is an option as we have seen. And finally, number one will be Velvet. Velvet's semblance allows her to mimic other people's movements and fighting style. She uses her semblance in correlation with her weapon to create hard-like replicas of their weapons, then mimic their movements to become proficient at using said weapon. The problem is her semblance by itself is fairly useless. It's not very beneficial to copy someone's fighting style. It's much better to perfect your own. After all, depending on an individual's body type, they need to adjust to fit their strength and weaknesses. Velvet's semblance is very counterintuitive because of this. Sure, it works nicely with her weapon, but she's the only character in the show who is pigeonholed into using a specific weapon just to make her semblance work better. All around, it's just a rather inefficient combination and places her at the top of my list for worst semblances in the show, at least for now. And if you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and turn notifications on so you can know when a new video comes out, and feel free to leave me a comment. I check them all, and I may even reply to you and feature your comment in my next video.